Why are you continuously late for this class, Mr. Spicoli? Why do you shamelessly waste my time like this?
I don't know.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High is an iconic, classic 1982 film that tells the stories of a group of teenagers who attend a Southern California high school in the early 1980s. Directed by Amy Heckerling in her directorial debut, the movie revolves around 6 students who attend Ridgemont High School in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles, California. Brad Hamilton, played by Judge Reinhold, who is a relatively popular senior. With a job at All-American Burger and looking forward to his final year of school, he plans to break up with his cute girlfriend Lisa, played by Amanda Weiss, so that he can be totally free and eligible.
Lisa, I have something to tell you. Look, I'm a senior now. I'm a single, successful guy. And I've got to be fair to myself, Lisa. I think I need my freedom.
When he winds up losing his job at All-American Burger, he tries to tell Lisa how badly he needs her. She informs him that she wants to break up with him to go date other guys.
I'm just glad we're still together. Because a lot's happening. I really need you this year.
Look, Brad, I've been trying to think of a way to tell you this.
His sister Stacy Hamilton, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, is a 15-year-old sophomore and a naive virgin who works at a pizza place inside Ridgemont Mall, the popular high school hangout. She receives loads of bad advice from her older friend, high school senior Linda Barrett, played by Phoebe Cates.
Stacy, what are you waiting for? You're 15 years old. I did it when I was 13. It's no huge thing. It's just sex.
He was hot, wasn't he?
Linda constantly pushes Stacy to have sex with men, causing Stacy to confuse being in love and having lustful feelings. Linda often speaks of her experience with men, including her alleged fiancé, Doug, an older guy who works for an airline in Chicago. Mike Damone, played by Robert Romanus, is a high school senior and a ticket scalper who is friends with the nerdy and younger sophomore, Mark Ratner, played by Brian Backer. Mark works as an usher at the movie theater in the mall across from the pizza place. Like Linda with Stacy, Damone often gives the younger and naive Ratner advice.
Put the vibe out to 30 million chicks, something is going to happen.
That's the idea, Raz. That's the attitude.
The attitude?
Yeah, the attitude dictates that you don't care whether she comes, stays, lays, or prays.
While not mentioned in the final film, the book and the original script mention that Damone is actually a transfer student from Philadelphia, which would explain his East Coast accent.
Stacy. Nice to meet you, Stacy. My name is Mark Ratner. I've gotta go.
Rat has a crush on Stacy, and it is mutual, but she also fancies Mike, who is older and more confident.
Listen, Mark Ratner really likes you. You like him?
Mark is really nice. But I think I like you.
Then there's the sophomore Jeff Spicoli, played by actor Sean Penn.
Wait a minute, there's no birthday party for me here.
A carefree surfer constantly stoned and happy. He often finds himself butting heads with the American history teacher, Mr. Hand, played by actor Ray Walston.
Sorry I'm late. It's just like this new schedule's totally confusing. Yeah, I know that, dude.
Mr. Spicoli.
That's the name they gave me. Hey, you're ripping my card.
Yeah. I think you know where the front office is.
You dick!
This film is a collection of events that take place throughout the school year, involving everything from sex and drugs and rock and roll. not to mention the more serious subjects, including teen pregnancy and abortion. With appearances from many actors including Eric Stoltz, Forrest Whitaker, and Nicolas Cage as Nicholas Coppola in their feature film debuts, this movie is iconic. Now, this film was based on a screenplay written by Cameron Crowe, which was based off a book he had written about high school. Crowe, a California-born writer for Rolling Stone magazine, had been skipped ahead a few grades and had graduated high school at the young age of 15. By 1979, at the age of 22, he decided to write a book about high school kids and their life experiences. He came up with the idea to go undercover as a high school student for research purposes. Simon & Schuster gave him a contract. He moved back in with his parents, and with the permission and knowledge of the principal and a handful of teachers, he actually enrolled at Claremont High School in San Diego, California, under the name Dave Cameron. Completing the senior year of high school that he never had in real life, Crowe focused on people he met who became the inspiration for the characters in the movie. A mature, sexually sophisticated girl, a brother and sister, a nerd, a surfer dude, and a tough guy. He chronicled their activities at Claremont High, as well as at the mall where many of them had after-school jobs. He concentrated on details of their personal lives, including music, social cliques, and sexual encounters. The nerd, Andy Rathbone, who became the inspiration for the character of Mark Ratner, would become well known as the author of the computer how-to books known as the For Dummies books. After changing the names of the characters as well as the name of the high school, he released the book as Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Before the book even had a release in 1981, it was optioned for a film. It would be directed by Amy Heckerling, a then 27-year-old New Yorker who wanted to create a film that was as real as she could make it. She wanted a less structured comedy film and something similar to American Graffiti. Heckerling said she wanted to make a film to where if you woke up and found yourself living in the movie, you would be happy. The mall scenes were filmed at the Sherman Oaks Galleria on Ventura Boulevard in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. After opening in October of 1980, this mall would become a well-known teenage hangout, and the teenage mall culture which formed around this and nearby malls would form the basis of the 1982 song Valley Girl by Frank Zappa and his daughter Moon Unit Zappa, which would later help influence the 1983 hit movie Valley Girl. Jennifer Jason Leigh actually got a temporary job at the pizza place in the mall prior to the film's production. The mall was damaged in the 1994 Northridge earthquake and gradually declined during the 1990s. Ridgemont High scenes were filmed over 8 days at Van Nuys High School in Van Nuys, California. And although classes remained in session, the school allowed students interested in filmmaking to observe the production. The Ridgemont High School mascot is the wolf, which is the same mascot as Van Nuys High School. Amy Heckerling wanted teenage actors to play the teenage role, something that was not common at the time. However, most of the actors were over 18. Actor Sean Penn walked into the audition basically demanding the role of Spicoli, saying, "I know this character, I know exactly how he needs to be played, and I want this part." He refused to give an actual audition. After thinking about it, they gave him the part. Sean Penn remained so in character that he wanted to be called Jeff during filming. The filmmakers jokingly called him Sean De Niro because of his pretentiousness. Anthony Edwards and Eric Stoltz were both considered for the role of Spicoli, and they ended up playing his stoner friends. Actor Christopher Reeve was also briefly considered for the role. The shoes that Spicoli's character wears are checkerboard model Vans.
Listen up. That was my skull! I'm so wasted!
The company would sell millions of this model shoe following the release of the film. Nicolas Cage was considered for the role of Brad, but Amy Heckerling thought that his performance was too dark. She thought that Jennifer Jason Leigh's character was so often sad that she needed to have a brother who would lighten the mood. Also, Cage was only 17 at the time, and there were work limits for actors under 18 years of age. Matthew Broderick turned the role down when his father became ill, and Tom Hanks was also considered for the role before it went to actor Judge Reinhold. For the role of Linda, Melanie Griffith, Carrie Fisher, Rosanna Arquette, and Tatum O'Neal were all considered. Actress Justine Bateman was offered the role but turned it down to pursue the NBC television series Family Ties. For the role of Stacy, filmmakers considered actresses Jodie Foster, Gina Davis, Michelle Pfeiffer, Kelly Preston, Elizabeth Shue, and Lori Loughlin. Ali Sheedy, Meg Tilly, and Diane Lane auditioned for the role. Ellen Barkin and Brooke Shields turned it down. Eventually, the role went to actress Jennifer Jason Leigh. Actor Brian Backer plays the role of Mark Ratner. Brian Backer was from Brooklyn, New York, and was pretty broke during filming, so Jennifer Jason Leigh and her family allowed him to stay at their home for no extra charge until the filming wrapped. The pretty girl in the Corvette is played by Nancy Wilson, member of the rock band Heart. She was dating screenwriter Cameron Crowe at the time, and the two were later married for decades. For the role of Mr. Hand, Amy Heckerling wanted actor Fred Gwynne, but he passed on the film because he thought the script had too much nasty stuff. Her second choice was actor Ray Walston, best known for the 1960s television series My Favorite Martian. In a 1999 interview, Walston said he was so happy to see young people on the street call him Mr. Hand because he was tired of only being called Uncle Martin. Heckerling said she wanted to make sex seem scary and uncomfortable for the teens and wanted a lot of realism, and she was very much pro-nudity for both characters.
I think I came. Didn't you feel it?
Yeah, I guess I did.
During Damone's sex scene with Stacy, Heckerling filmed a full frontal scene of Robert Romanus nude, but had to blow it up to just show his chest and face to avoid an X rating from the MPAA. When the Criterion Collection Blu-ray DVD was released in the year 2021, the original filmed framing was restored, and you can see Robert Romanus's full nude crotch. The scene where Linda instructs Stacy how to give a blowjob originally took place in a hot tub with both actresses naked. Both Jennifer Jason Leigh and Phoebe Cates were up for it, but had they filmed it, the movie would have likely received an X rating. Phoebe Cates, who was then only 18 years old, was reluctant to film her iconic topless scene because she was worried that the neighbors might be watching from rooftops nearby. Amy Heckerling told her that there was no point in worrying about a couple of neighbors peeking when millions of people in theaters would eventually see the movie. Phoebe Cates was eventually convinced to go ahead and be topless for what would become one of the most iconic scenes of the 1980s. For his masturbation scene, Judge Reinhold, unbeknownst to the rest of the crew, brought a giant dildo onto the set to stroke during the scene, so that the look of disgust on Phoebe Cates' face would be amplified.
Oh, wait just a minute. Doesn't anybody fucking knock anymore?
In the movie, Phoebe Cates' character Linda is supposed to be older than Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, but in reality, Leigh was 19 years old during filming, 1 year older than Phoebe Cates. In the movie, Linda is allegedly in a relationship with an older man who works for an airline in Chicago. In 1989, Phoebe Cates would marry an older man, actor Kevin Kline, who is 16 years her senior. Universal did not think that this movie would be a hit, and they originally planned on only giving it a limited regional release in the western part of the United States. Regional releases were something that was rather common for some movies in the early 1980s, and Universal thought that this movie wouldn't have a large enough audience. Once the film opened in a limited release on August 13, 1982, it immediately earned over $2.5 million on its opening weekend. The studio quickly gave it a much wider nationwide release, and the movie wound up grossing $27 million in America. 6 times its $4.5 million budget.
See Fast Times at Ridgemont High, where only the rules get busted. Rated R.
Starts Friday, August 20th at theaters in your area. Check newspapers for showtime.
The film was so successful that CBS tried a short-lived sitcom called Fast Times that aired for about 2 months in the spring of 1986. It starred actress Claudia Wells as Linda, Courtney Thorne-Smith as Stacy, and actor Patrick Dempsey as Mike Damone. The series was written and directed by Amy Heckerling, but the only 2 actors from the film to reprise their roles were Vincent Schiavelli as the teacher Mr. Vargas and Ray Walston as Mr. Hand. Fast Times would wind up having huge success on cable television and on video rentals. Many video rental stores stated that their copies of the VHS tape of the movie had a predictable flicker during Phoebe Cates' topless scene because so many renters had paused and rewound the shot, causing excessive wear on the tape at that location. The soundtrack to this movie is fantastic. You got music from Don Henley, Led Zeppelin, The Cars, Jimmy Buffett, Tom Petty, Stevie Nicks. The song that plays during the opening credits is the Go-Go's We Got the Beat, which had been a number 2 Billboard Hot 100 hit in the United States in April of 1982, just 4 months prior to the film's release. One of the film's producers wanted Raised on the Radio by the Ravens, a Baltimore rock band, to be featured during the opening credits because he thought that song was going to be a huge hit. While Raised on the Radio is a good song and it would get airplay, it was never a huge hit, and Heckerling went with her original choice, We Got the Beat. The biggest hit single off of the soundtrack was Jackson Browne's Somebody's Baby, which was his highest charting single ever, peaking at number 7 in the fall of 1982. This film was not just successful, but it became an iconic movie of the 1980s. Director Amy Heckerling would go on to direct films including Look Who's Talking, Clueless, Loser. If anyone asked me who my favorite female director was, Amy Heckerling is usually the first name that would pop into my mind. Sean Penn, Forrest Whitaker, Eric Stoltz, Anthony Edwards, Nicolas Cage, Judge Reinhold, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Phoebe Cates, all of them would go on to have very successful movie careers. Fast Times at Ridgemont High was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant to American history. I first saw this movie around Y2K, 2001, that time frame, and I can easily say this is one of my all-time personal favorite films. My guess is that Fast Times would rank almost certainly in my top 10 favorite movies and probably in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. That's pretty damn good considering I've seen thousands of movies. I think the fact that Fast Times continues to be such an iconic movie, whether it's praised or criticized, keeps it alive. If you look at America in 20-year intervals, the 1980s were this sweet spot wedged between JFK and 9/11. I don't know, sort of this habitable zone in between that was just spectacular. The way high school life was in the 1980s. Much different from my high school life in the early 2000s, and certainly different than the 2010s, 2020s, and the way high school has changed throughout the 21st century. I don't know what the reason is, but I love this movie. I give 10 out of 10 stars to Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and I think it's a movie that is going to continue to be remembered as an iconic piece of American history as time goes by.